Hi, Hannah. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Getting ready for this week. Got lots of stuff to do, but I'm ready to get it done.
Right. Well, that's totally what we're here to do. So that sounds great. Did you have anything fun happen this week at all you want to talk about?
Not really anything fun, just kind of like trying to get ahead in all my classes, just want to stay on track, but also ahead of the game as well.
Right, right. Well, that's perfect. Then let's go ahead and get started. Last session, I asked you to come up with a list of self-quizzing questions for your sociology class. Were you able to do that?
Yeah, I did. I did three per level.
Oh, amazing. All right. Go ahead and share your screen and let's dive into it.
Okay, cool. Can you see my screen?
I can. This looks perfect. So, to get started, I would like if I could just actually ask you some of these questions, just to kind of gauge where you're at with your knowledge. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right, awesome. So, for starters, what is a social system?
A social system includes the different levels of different systems and the relationships between them. So examples are like family or healthcare system or the political system.
Perfect. Great. So, you've already done level two, give an example of a social system. So, go ahead and tell me, why are there three different levels of social systems?
Well, the thing is that it all depends on how big that social system is. So that's why there are three levels, so we can differentiate between them and also kind of see how sometimes they're embedded into within another as well.
Brilliant. Wonderful. So now let's go ahead and hypothesize one social system we might have in the future.
Well, maybe even though we already have the healthcare system, there might be a change in the way we view healthcare in the future, especially with the pandemic. So it might change just the way the laws are made or the way we have distributions for vaccines and stuff. So that may be more of a change in the social system we might see.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. That was brilliant. Now that we've gone through all of these, how helpful was it to self quiz this past week?
It was so helpful. Like I made all my friends quiz me on all these questions, and for class, I went through them as well. Even though I know my exam is like 3 weeks from now, I just really, really wanted to make sure I understood this stuff.
Right. Well, do you feel like doing these questions increased your comprehension and understanding?
Yes, definitely.
Well, that's so good to hear. That's wonderful. So I think we're good, and thank you very much. And I hope that you can continue to self quiz, especially in that little study time slot that we found.
For sure.
Wonderful. So the topic of today is going to be previewing. And with previewing, we actually have a fun little activity that we get to do.
Ooh, nice.
I agree. So, what I'm going to do is read a short passage out loud to you. And after I'm done, I'm going to let you write down as many details that you can possibly remember. And then we're going to see what the passage was describing.
Okay,
So, yes, you can get a paper and pen ready and just let me know when you're ready to
I'm
go.
ready.
Amazing. All right. A newspaper is better than a magazine, and a rock will serve as an anchor. On the seashore is a better place than a street. At first, it is better to run than to walk. Also, you may have to try several times. It takes some skill, but it's easy to learn. Even young children can enjoy it. Once successful, complications are minimal. Birds seldom get too close. One needs lots of room. Rain soaks in very fast. Too many people doing the same thing can also cause problems. If there are not complications, it can be very peaceful. If things break loose from it, however, you will not get a second chance. Go ahead and write down everything you remember.
Okay, I'm done.
Brilliant. So, how much of that did you retain?
I only remembered actually one sentence.
That's totally fair, and that's actually pretty reasonable considering the fact you weren't able to take notes during, right? So
Mhm.
now I'm going to tell you the content, topic, and the organization, and then read it back out loud to you. Are you ready?
Yes.
So the content topic is a passage about kites, and the organization is first making a kite, second, flying a kite, and third, possible complications. So let's go ahead and read that one more time. And I want you to figure out if you can tell when we're making those transitions. So, a newspaper is better than a magazine, and a rock will serve as an anchor. On the seashore is a better place than a street. At first, it is better to run than to walk. Also, you may have to try several times. It takes some skill, but it's easy to learn. Even young children can enjoy it. Once successful, complications are minimal. Birds seldom get too close. One needs lots of room. Rain soaks in very fast. Too many people doing the same thing can also cause problems. If there are not complications, it can be very peaceful. If things break loose from it, however, you will not get a second chance.
Okay, this time I remembered like 5 or 6 sentences from it.
Wow. So, what we just did is called previewing. And notice that when we preview, we are able to actually be equipped with an understanding of the passage before we've even started. Is this a strategy that you've tried before?
I have not tried it before, but I'm ready to try it soon.
That's awesome. So, was it easier the second time around? And you did recall more details, correct?
And especially because the first time it felt like a riddle, like I was like, I don't know how these connect, but now I'm just like, wait, it makes so much more sense.
Right. So I'm going to share my screen with you really quickly. And I just want to show you what the benefits are to previewing. So the first benefit is that typically new information is easier to understand. Lectures make more sense, readings don't seem as difficult. And in fact, most students who do a mini read prior to doing a full reading find that they can even read more quickly than normal.
That's
Pretty
awesome.
nice.
Yeah.
I totally agree. So now go ahead and read this paragraph out loud to me, please.
Second, students remember more. Being familiar with the organization and content of a reading or lecture ahead of time helps you mentally organize the incoming information. And in much in the same way, it's quicker to retrieve what you want to wear from a well-organized closet. It's quicker to retrieve information at test time from a well-organized mind. Retaining as much as possible from the first time you read or hear new information means saves you review time later on before exams.
Beautiful. So now, with that being said, let's go ahead and start practicing previewing. So for starters, what is previewing? Well, previewing is getting a general framework of main ideas to better comprehend and retain details you'll encounter later. And it involves familiarizing yourself with the text or lecture slides as a whole. So, how do we do that? Go ahead and read me this first sentence right here.
Scan for the title, table of contents, introduction and preface, index and glossary, and any end of chapter questions.
Brilliant. And you want to think, how does this topic relate to other things you've learned? Now, when we're actually creating a preview, this is how we do it. We write down the title, the table of contents, the introduction, even the index, right? Just to get a sense of what material we have to work with and what material we're responsible for. Now, if your reading is just over one chapter, when you create your preview, you want to outline the introduction, the subheading titles, maybe even the first sentence of every section, and you want to write down if there's diagrams, charts, figures, and the conclusion.
Okay.
Perfect. Do you have any questions before I show you some examples?
Nope.
Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and take a look in our files previewing section. So when we come to previewing, I have a whole host of examples that I can show you. So let's start with this question. Are your classes more lecture-based or textbook-based?
Textbook based.
Great. So this will be a really good example for you. So let's check this out. Look at this practice biology text, okay? This is a real biology textbook that we can practice outlining on. So let's say that you were creating your preview outline. What is the first thing you're going to write?
Well, first, I want to look at all the stuff like this subheading, the content summary, or like the summary, headers, questions, that kind of thing.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and practice really quickly and go ahead and point out the title to me.
So the title is Nerve Cells.
Brilliant. And the first bullet point would be the first subheading. So what is the first subheading that you see here?
Um, so there's the nerve cell structure, but I guess the text before that could be like an introduction. So,
Right. Definitely you can get down that there's an introduction. And yes, my bad for not showing that full document. But importantly, I don't want you to skip over the learning objectives,
mhm.
right? So when you're previewing, this would be something really handy because they're telling you exactly what you need to know, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So now let's go ahead and see how a student broke down this textbook reading. Great. So it looks like it took them about 8 minutes in total to actually preview through that entire 18-page textbook, right?
Mhm.
And it says the topics are each of the following. So looking at this reading outline, do you see where they got those topics from?
Yeah, I do.
So where'd they get those topics from?
So they got the topics from first of all the subheadings and also the learning objectives helped outline it as well.
Brilliant. Exactly that. It looks like those topics are actually just a list of all of the subheadings. So this is a brilliant example of how you would want to preview by just coming up with this very broad outline. And then down here, we have an objective. So after you have previewed and you've come up with your topics, all of your outline, you want to quiz yourself. So memorize those topic titles, which subtopics belong to which topics, and what is the progression of topics and concepts. Nice. So go ahead and let's start with which subtopics belong to which topics. So looking over here, where does neuroglial cells belong? What heading does that belong under?
That belongs under neuron.
Brilliant. And now what about neurogeal responses?
That's under neuronal responses to brain injuries.
Right. So it's interesting here that we are introduced to what seems similar, neurogeal and neurogeal, and yet these are in completely separate categories, right? That's
Yeah.
a great thing to note because you know that this is clearly important if it's going to come into play in 3 later sections.
Mhm.
Brilliant. So these are the kinds of insights that we gain every time we preview, right?
Mhm.
So now that we've done both of those things, I would like to show you just a few more examples. And this time I'm going to show you a lecture example. All right. So if you notice right here, we have got this beefy lecture where it's looking like we have 52 slides. Right. Pretty tremendous. Okay. So just scrolling through here, wow, we've got squids, squids, squids. Continue. And it looked like squids all the way down. Let's see if at any point this changes topics. So I'm going to keep scrolling and I would like you to shout out when you see that the topic has changed.
Okay.
Great.
Um, maybe from squid to fish.
Right. So it's looking like we're no longer focusing on squids and we're now talking about myelination in copepods because copepods, I don't think that's a squid.
Yeah.
Now I wouldn't know. Right. So yeah, clearly it's changed because we're no longer seeing squid on every single slide. And now it looks like this subheading, would this go under squids or would this go under what we're just now seeing as a new topic of myelination and copepods?
It would go under the new topic.
Beautifully done. Yes. So looking through here, you see how you could preview through slides by just reading these titles quickly and seeing if these titles are matching up with whatever you were previously looking at on the other slide. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. And if you're previewing, just like every subheading was its own bullet point, do you think that each of these titles on these slides could be their own bullet point on a paper outline?
Yeah.
Brilliant. I absolutely agree with that. Now, let's go ahead and see what the example outline looks like. Great. So they've got topic 1, giant axons, and they've got terms along with big questions.
Mhm.
Then they have topic 2, myelination. And it looks like, just like we talked about, they're pretty much just copying down the titles of the slides that we saw.
Mhm.
Beautiful. And then they copied a summary from the last slide of lecture. So do you see how it can be really helpful to do that when you are previewing material that you maybe want like a rundown on in your outline?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So now what I would like you to do is go ahead and pull up any textbook whatsoever that you are assigned, and let's practice together now doing an actual preview outline. Brilliant. So now that we've got this textbook pulled up, go ahead and remind me, what chapter or section are you on?
I am on section 4. And
Brilliant.
yeah, section 4.
So now it looks like our textbook has actually already prepared us for our preview by coming up with each of these subtopics. So go ahead and read me what you're going to start your outline with.
So I guess we could start off with the overall title of it, which is the Poverty, Health, and Justice Beyond National Borders, since that'll give me an idea of what it's about.
Brilliant. Now, my next question, is it acceptable for you to just go ahead and copy over these subheadings into your outline directly?
I think so. Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely is, for sure. So, responsibilities for poverty-related illness, what's wrong with global migration of healthcare professionals, and do we owe the global poor assistance or rectification? And then what is the final point that we're going to have on your previewing outline?
Recommended reading, supplemental reading.
Brilliant. So what we've just done is we have previewed what? The reading itself or the textbook?
We've previewed the textbook.
Exactly. So now let's go to the page number and actually see how much more previewing we can accomplish. All right. So it seems right here, what's wrong with the global migration of healthcare professionals, that we have a subheading that we can include in our preview. So let's go ahead and include that subheading.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Go ahead and read it out loud to me.
Individual rights and international justice.
Brilliant. So now what I would like for you to do is to look at this brief little outline that I've prepared for us and talk about how you could self-quiz through here. So I think that this definitely lends itself to what level of questions after you've read the book. What kind of self-quizzing questions do you think we'd be using here?
Well, I mean, for example, like the header, what's wrong with global migration? That's like a what, right? So it's asking you like more of a level 1 or 2 kind of question for now.
Right. Brilliant. And this one, I think, would definitely be application based, right? Where you have to discuss and actually explain why different situations might call for different measures. Amazing. So now that we've previewed, you've gotten some practice in of previewing it, I would like to talk about specific tips with previewing. Now, I want to assign you some previewing this week. Do you have any readings that are due next week?
Yeah, so I have a textbook reading due next Friday. It's like 300 pages long, but I'm really hoping to get it done on Monday.
Okay, well, today is Friday. So if you think that you could get a 300-page reading done over the weekend, I think that would be commendable, but that seems a bit ambitious to me. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, now that I think of it, maybe.
Okay, great. Well, let's start then by just previewing it. So what I would ask is that you go ahead and preview to the best of your capacity by Saturday. Now, how realistic does that sound?
I think that's pretty realistic because the outline you showed me before was like 8 minutes for that. So I'm thinking it can't be that bad for this one.
Okay, brilliant. And for starters, we talked about previewing using the table of contents, using the introduction. So does your textbook have a table of contents?
It does, yes.
Brilliant. So that's definitely our starting place, but we're going to make sure to go through and continue to fill in the greater details, right?
Yeah.
Great. So now, just as a kind of a reminder, I would like to say that previewing is not always possible for every single class.
Mhm.
That being said, it is the most important and it is essential when you know that your class or your reading is going to have content that is difficult to understand.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Brilliant. So, do you think that this reading is going to be difficult to understand?
Nope, not with previewing.
Then this is a really good place that you can start by practicing your previewing skills. And hopefully, we'll continue to have the opportunity to develop these as we go throughout the semester.
Awesome.
Brilliant. So, next week, I'm going to ask for your outline that you created during your preview. And I'm also going to ask you several quizzing questions throughout.
Okay, cool.
Perfect. I'll see you next week.
Bye.